I'm Karaleigh Garrison, singer-songwriter, self-care and resilience coach, and your host of the Seeking Sunshine podcast, where we find the positive in the trials of life.
There are times when life just brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine.
That was a sneak peek of my upcoming album called Seeking Sunshine. I am so excited that I finally get to announce the release date of my debut album, which will be May 23rd, 2023. I'm so excited to share this music with you guys. It's going to blow you away. Are you looking for ways to support my podcast? If so, then please like it, subscribe it, and leave it a review. Did you know that if you leave a review, it helps my podcast get shown to more people? I would so appreciate it if you could leave some words in the review box and let people know. Share this with your friends and family and tell them about the episodes that you really like and some of the takeaways that you've personally received and that have helped you out. Story to share. It's my belief that we all do, that we've all been through really, really tough things, and that when we share our stories, it's beneficial for us, but it's also beneficial for everyone who gets to hear it. We all have stories of overcoming that we can teach what we've learned to other people and inspire and uplift those around us. So if you feel called to share your story, please reach out to me. You can email me at seekingsunshinepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I hope that you find inspiration, joy, and hope here as we continuously look for the joy and the beauty in the really dark, deep trials of life. I started this podcast because I've been through a lot of really tough things, and I know that I have a lot of stories to share that can uplift people and can really show that there is so much beauty if we just look for it, to never give up hope. I've seen so many miraculous things happen in my life that have just shown me over and over and over again that there is always hope. There's always something to look forward to. And as I interview these incredible guests that I get to have on my show, I see just over and over again, so many people need to share their stories of resilience and hope and strength. They are so inspirational. They're so empowering. And it's so important for us to get to listen to each other, for us to get to tell our stories, but also for us to hear from a wide array of people so that we can get out of our own circles and hear from people who are different from us. So many people have been through horrible, horrible things and have these incredible stories to share of how they conquered just unfathomable odds, how they kept going when it seemed truly impossible. Those are the stories that I find the most uplifting and the most joyful to my soul. And that's my goal with this podcast, is to share that with you. So thank you again for being here, and I hope that this brightens your day. Hey guys, real quick, I wanted to remind you that the doors are officially open for my Shine Self-Care Coaching Program. This is a program that will take you from burnout, from being overwhelmed all the time and stressed with your life just feeling completely out of control, to a place of peace and freedom and joy. Did you know that it's possible for you to change your mindset and feel happy no matter what is going on in your life? I have had so much practice in overcoming and persevering through really, really tough times, and I know that it's true, that you can find joy no matter what is going on in your life. I would love to take you by the hand and guide you through this process, and I want you to know that unless you do something to change your habits and your mind, nothing's gonna change. It's up to you. You have to be the one to decide that enough is enough and that it's time to make a difference in your life. You can live the life that you've always dreamed of. Are you ready for it? Reach out to me. You can find me at seekingsunshinepodcast@gmail.com, or you can find more information on my website, karaleighgarrison.com. Just schedule a little 15-minute clarity call with me and we can talk together and determine if this is the right path for you. I'm excited to see you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I am just thrilled that you are here, and I hope that everyone had such an amazing weekend. It was Easter. For us, it was spring break, which we actually got to go on vacation. We got to drive out to California and sit on the beach for 3 days, which was amazing. We haven't been able to go on a vacation in several years, so it was such a treat, and we just had an absolute blast of a time. Cannot wait to do it again. And also, Easter Sunday was both my husband's and my birthday, which is always really exciting. Even though what we did was earlier in the week, we felt so blessed and so loved with so many birthday wishes, and it was just lovely. So thank you all for telling us happy birthday, because we just got bombarded with those beautiful wishes, and I'm just feeling so grateful. We came back into town, and my son was crying because he didn't want to come off of vacation, and it was hard because he was like, I want to go back to the hotel. I want to go back to the beach and back to grandma and grandpa. And it's been tough for him because he's severely autistic and he just doesn't really understand, that was temporary. But through it all, I have just had this overwhelming feeling of so much gratitude and so much joy in my heart. I think we really, really needed that reset. I know I did, where we got to just be in nature and see the beauty that God has created on this earth. It's so incredible. And as we came back into town and I was missing the beach, I have noticed more and more the beauty that's around me here, because I do live in a really beautiful area, and I'm lucky enough that where my husband works and I drive him down there every day, there's a little lake, and there's tons of ducks and geese, and just appreciating the beauty that's here now is such an important thing. So I just wanted to catch you guys all up of what's going on with us. I've been a little absent this week because we've just been, kind of no phones, just enjoying our time. And it's been really, really beautiful. And I totally recommend it. Even if you can't go anywhere, just look around you and find the beauty that already exists where you're at, because I promise you it's there. So anyways, on to our episode today. Oh my goodness gracious, guys. I swear to you, every week I tell you, that our guest is amazing. And this week is just no exception. I was crying when the interview happened and crying when I listened to it again today to go back through and pull out some quotes. And Rianna is incredible. Her story will move you to tears. It's so heartbreaking and yet so beautiful what she's been able to do with her life since tragedy struck. So you have to listen to her story. It's so good. It is so good. All right. So Rianna, my guest today is Rianna Hijlkema. She is actually from the Netherlands, and she's incredible. So she's a multi-passionate serial entrepreneur living a nomadic life for the past 11 years. She's traveled to 40 plus different countries and has worked on 4 different continents and has taught her to approach life and business with resourcefulness and resilience. But nothing could have prepared her for involuntary childlessness. The roller coaster of emotions is hard to grasp for the outside world. Nowhere could she find women who understood the challenges she was facing, so she went through most of it alone. Rianna figured out how to thrive and made it her life's mission to help others do the same through speaking, writing, and her walking and hiking retreats for women who are childless, not by choice. She's just stunning. Her story will tear your heart out. This is one you absolutely have to listen to and share with everybody because everyone needs to hear this. It's so amazing. So without any further ado, welcome Rianna.
Hi Rianna, thanks for coming to the Seeking Sunshine podcast today.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to have you. So let's dive right in. I want to hear your story. You have such a fascinating story as I was reading your bio, and oh my goodness, the traveling and everything. So let's hear all about you.
Yeah, true. That's my whole outside. It's beautiful. Like traveling all around the world. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started different companies. I came across. Well, maybe I should just start with the traveling because has had a huge impact on my life. In 2011, I broke up with my boyfriend. We sold a house. I was in this moment that I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? What's next? And I found an au pair job for 3 months in Paris. So I thought, that sounds good. Driving from the Netherlands.
Awesome. And where were you before that?
I grew up in the Netherlands.
Okay, great.
I've always lived in the Netherlands. I am Dutch, and I grew up in a family with 3 young brothers, and I was just living the life exactly how it was expected. So you find a boyfriend, you get married, or you buy a house, and then you think about children and like the whole story. So that was what I was exactly doing as well. But when we broke up and we sold the house, it was for me really like, okay, I need to get away here for a while. And that's why when I found this internship or this au pairship in Paris, I thought, this is perfect. 3 months, I'm just going to be by myself, taking care of those kids, and I'll come back and I'll pick up my old life again. Well, didn't go like that. Because I arrived in Paris. Yeah.
It never quite goes as planned, does it?
No, exactly. Just quickly going to put the AC on. It's really warm here. Because I'm in Argentina now. I'll come back to that later.
I would say you're kind of living a dream, right? I mean, like, who's looking around their lives going, I wish I could be traveling for my life. I wish that could be what I do. And here you are, you're doing that. And it's incredible.
And it was never my intention because those 3 months in Paris, I had so much fun, like recreating myself, making new friends. And I got a job in an international school. So the 3 months turned out to be 1 year in France. And then my mom started sending all applications from jobs in the Netherlands. And I was like, there must be other opportunities abroad because I wanted more. And my job in Paris was done at that time.
Okay,
and
so
I found a job.
Sorry, I'm curious. How old were you when you just went off to a different country, to go work for a living? And how did that feel? Because I feel like for most of us, that would be so scary, so far out of our comfort zone to be like, oh, I'm just going to go live somewhere else. I mean, did you speak the language? Like, there's all these things going through my head of like, that sounds so scary. And yet you just like dived right in. So how did that feel when you were making that transition?
Yeah, well, one thing that helped is that the family was Dutch. So I came kind of in a warm bath, but my whole environment was in French, of course, and I didn't speak a word of French, even though I had it in school. But, it's so passive. You never.
Oh, I do now. I took, 4 years of Spanish, and I'm like, I can kind of understand a little bit of it, but I don't speak it.
Doesn't work like that, right? It's like picking it up like in the country, and then it's purposeful. And so I worked really hard to get my friends on a certain level so I could communicate and make some new friendships. And But yeah, how did it feel? Well, I remember the first day that I arrived, I dropped all my stuff at the au pair family. I've never been in Paris. So I walked through the town, and I was standing there on the bridge, and I never told them actually, I was still wearing the ring of my ex-boyfriend. And I was standing there on the bridge and thinking, okay, what do I want now? How am I going to move forward? Who am I actually? All these questions were coming up, and I was thinking, this ring needs to be gone because this is my old life and I'm going to build a new life. So I took off the ring and I threw it in the sand.
Okay,
So
I'm seeing this whole thing playing out in a movie. Like, this is just like the most picturesque movie scene that I can even imagine, of like you and your gorgeous self standing there on this bridge, which I don't know if it was like, what's it, the Thames in Paris?
Seine.
It's like the Seine, the bridge in Paris. And you're standing
And
there
the one
on
with
this,
all those little locks that you always see on the pictures.
yeah,
Yeah.
most picturesque, like, because you are stunning, by the way. So, like, for anyone listening, like this stunning girl standing on the most picturesque bridge, going, "Screw this! I'm done with this old life, and I'm ready to find myself." And that's just like, I could
Yeah.
just see it in a movie, because it's just like,
And you know what I did in that moment, because I've always lived according to goals, like, okay, find a boyfriend, get the house, like these kind of steps. And that moment on that bridge, I thought, I feel so happy right now. Well, everything is broken up, but I feel so happy. And this feeling, I never want to lose again. This feeling of freedom, happiness, and that it's my choice, my decision. And I'm at that moment, I think, and I only know that now if I'm looking back, I really realized that I'm the one responsible for my happiness. And I put the responsibility always on other people before. And from that day on, I started creating my life. And that has been like a life-changing experience, because like I said, I choose not to go back to the Netherlands after France and continue my travel, even though I moved to China. Was again a whole new culture, a language that I didn't speak. I entered there in an international school, and I started traveling around China, and I had the most beautiful conversations without language. Like, we played games. I had great experiences, moments, and yeah, it's just so hard to describe all this feel. And especially when you're traveling alone, I think that's also, I know a lot of people say, oh, I could not do that. You're so brave. You just did it actually without really thinking. I was in China, so I wanted to discover more than just Shanghai, where I was living there. And I did discover that when I started traveling around China, because it's so different, one side to the other side. And after China, I found a job in Spain as a director of a school. And I was like, okay, let's go for that. And, and it just kept going. So the first 5 years, this was back in 2011 when I started traveling. So for 5 years, I've been traveling alone. And then I was in Indonesia, and I was on a really tiny, beautiful island. And it was a funny story as well, because I was planning to travel for 2 weeks in Indonesia. And then a friend of mine told me, oh, there's a beautiful island. It's really remote and small, and you should definitely visit that. So I took a bus for 12 hours, then a boat trip for 14 hours. And that's not like the nice yachts or cruises or those kind of boat ships. No, you're just on a piece of carton on the floor for 14 hours. That's where you eat, and well, you pee in one toilet with 200 people, so you know how it smells there. And I mean, that was quite an experience. So for 14 hours on the boat, and then I had like a little kayak that brought me to the island for another 2 hours. And I arrived on the island, and it was small. It was really small. It was so small. There were 3 huts, and in the back was all jungle, and there was like a small strip of beach, and that was it. And it was gorgeous, don't get me wrong, like white sand, blue water, like see-through water in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around me to see, but I had 2 weeks of holiday, and I was just in the beginning of my holiday, and I thought, there's so much more that I want to see of Indonesia except this small little island. So I went to the owner of one of those huts, and I said, when is the next boat going back tomorrow? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, is it in the morning, in the afternoon? He said, no, the boat just left. He's here once every week, so next week. And I was like, what? A whole week on this island? And something I didn't know at that moment, that in the middle of the hut, there was my future husband sleeping. So
Okay.
yes, I know.
All right. Your story is incredible. Your story is just like, yeah. So one of the things that's coming to my mind is how your story of going to this island and not knowing when you were going to be able to leave this really isolated, unknown kind of territory. It reminds me a lot of COVID, where, we were like shoved into this isolated period of time. We don't know how long we're going to be here. And it's like, we may as well embrace it because we're stuck here. And so that's kind of a random parallel that I'm drawing here, but that's what it reminds me of in, our lives for the rest of us in the world who are not quite as adventurous.
Well, it is true. It was, even though this was in 2014, it was that feeling like, what am I going to do right now? I mean, I'm literally stuck. I cannot go anywhere. I could barely move because the strip of the beach was so small. It was like back and forward 5 minutes.
Well, and I'm like, do you have a place to sleep? Do you have a place to be on the island? Did they even have like a hotel or any sort of place?
No, there were those 3 huts, and those 3 huts were rented. And if the hut from the owner was rented, then he was sleeping next to the hut. And if it wasn't rented, he was sleeping in the hut. So there were 3 huts, and my future husband was sleeping in one of those huts, and he was there because he went there with his friend, and they planned to spend there a week. And they did spend a week, but his friend got really sick. He got dengue, so they couldn't move. They couldn't leave the island. His friend was so sick. So that's why he was stuck there for another week. How lucky I was, because his friend was sleeping in the hut, and we spent the whole week together on that tiny island talking. Like, we had the most beautiful conversations, but no intention of relationship or thinking about the future. It was really living in the present and sharing our stories. He was in the army. I was talking about my travels and my plan to live in Nepal. And it was just like, it was really relaxing, and it was a great week that we had. And then that boat came, and they left, and they went up, travel north in Indonesia, and I went to south. We were on the island of Sulawesi. And like 3 days later, he sent me a text on Facebook saying, I really had a good time. I know you're going to be in Bali in a couple of days. Would you mind if I fly to you and we spend another couple of days together? And I was like, yeah, why not? So he flew to Bali. We spent 3 days there. And then, we had a really great time. But I told him from the beginning, listen, I'm going to live in Nepal. There's nobody who's going to stop my dream. There's nobody going to hold me back. I've been there, not going there anywhere. So don't get anything in your head. We're just having fun now, and that's it. And he was like, don't worry, I'm in the army. I'm aiming to go to the special forces. You have no life there in a relationship. You're just, so he said, no worries, we're just having fun. And that's what we had. But we kept keeping contact. And then at one moment he had to go, this is a whole love story I'm talking about. In one moment he had to go to training for 4 months in Czech. And then he told me, I need something to look forward to after my training. For 4 months, they were not allowed to have any phone contact. And we've been regularly calling and texting at that time. So he said, let's book a trip and we'll see how it goes. So we booked a trip to Canada. And 4 months later, I was in the airport of Brussels. He's from Belgium, by the way. The airport from Brussels. And I was waiting for him, and there he came. And that was a moment I was freaking out. It's funny because the moment that I drove to Paris, I was not freaking out. But the moment that
So you guys booked your big vacation to Canada after all these exotic locations. You were like, oh yeah, Canada. That's where we're gonna go.
Why not? Yes, exactly.
I know. There's a lot of beauty in Canada. So
no, Canada is really beautiful. I had no idea, but so that was for our winter holiday. And
so pause for 1 second and let's rewind and let's dive into this moment right before you met him. You're on this island. and you are stuck there and you have no idea. I guess, it sounds like not knowing what the future holds doesn't seem to shake you that much. It sure shakes me.
True.
But you're
Yeah.
sitting there in this moment going, what am I gonna do? How did you get through that mentally till you got to the point of like meeting somebody? Like what went through your mind and how did you process that in a way that was like, oh, I'm gonna find the sunshine in this. I'm randomly, literally, like I'm randomly not a desert island, but like suddenly I'm stuck on an island.
Yeah. Really interesting question, because I think by traveling so much, I've built a lot of resilience and quickly bounce back to whatever happens. And I took the trip to Indonesia to start writing my book. So I had like a little tablet with me. And when the guy said the next boat is going to be next week, of course, there was like a moment of freaking out, like what? But then exactly, oh, maybe this was meant to be. Now I can write my book. And that's what I kind of did. In the end, I didn't write so much. I talked more than that I wrote.
I love that. Maybe this was meant to be. That is such
Yeah.
a beautiful mindset to go from freaking out to, you know what? This is going to work out. This is going to be okay. I don't know what the future holds, but having that positivity and that hope, like, you got to accept the moment of freak out. That happens to all of us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then, how do I change this? Because I don't want to live in the freak out. How do
Yeah.
I change my mindset so that this can be for my benefit? Because maybe it really is. And if I just give it a chance, then,
Yeah.
it could change your whole life and you could get married out of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. If I knew that. Yeah. It's also, I think, this whole idea of I cannot change it in this moment. It's like I can try to control whatever I want, but it's not possible. I cannot control that the boat is going to come back earlier to pick me up. I can, and then let go. And that's something, like I said before, this resilience, I've built this up by traveling, and it's never going the way you want. And I think when you're living a life where you have a 9 to 5 job, where everything is kind of expected, and you can live on those kind of structures, routines, and I don't have that. And now even less in my life, if I'm looking how because in that time I was still working as a teacher, so I had the expectations of, okay, now there's holiday time, this is my work time. And I do think that really helps. But well, fast forward 1.5 years later, he decided to quit his job in the army. It was his decision. I said, don't do it for me, because if one day we're going to break up, I don't want to have the blame to this, because I know how this felt. So 1.5 years later, he quit the army. He moved to me where I was in that moment. I was in Costa Rica, and we lived there for 6 months. And then we started traveling the world together for 1.5, almost 2 years. And then we started building our house in Nepal, because that's what I wanted. And then COVID hit. So our dream crashed in that moment. I'm fast forwarding a little bit because I have a lot of stories to tell about everything, but there's actually a story that I really would like to talk about today. And that's because I said already when I started, this is the beautiful outside, like the traveling, having multiple companies running, marrying an amazing guy that I every morning still wake up and I'm like, I'm the luckiest woman on the earth. And this is the outside, but in March 2022, last year, I really hit rock bottom, because when I met my husband, I never had really this feeling of like, yeah, I want to start having children. I wanted to have children, but I didn't feel it with the boyfriend that I had, the last boyfriend I had in the Netherlands. And when I met my husband, was really soon, like in 1-2 years, I did feel that feeling, and he had the same. And we were thinking about, like, we were traveling, and we started thinking, how can we create our life with the traveling, and a small family, 2 children would be perfect, and keep doing this and giving this to them, this world education that you have from learning all these different languages and meeting all these different cultures. And so we started trying for a baby, and half a year passed by, start doing all these tests and checkups, and 1 year passed by, and the doctors kept pushing me away because they said, you're so young. I was 29 at that time. but we felt there's something wrong because it doesn't work. Why is it not working? And at one moment I started going through all the infertility tests, and they couldn't find anything. So they said, okay, we're going to start procedures, and we're going to start with fertility treatments. And that was really a shock for me, because it's something that you don't expect. It's something you don't hear so much about still, I feel. Now I'm in this world and I hear a lot of stories, but before I could not even name anybody who had trouble conceiving or who went through IVF. Those were faraway stories for me, somewhere on the internet or one time in a newspaper, but that was it. And suddenly I was in this process, and it felt so unnatural to go through that, because I had this vision, this dream, like we all have, like we find this partner, we have this special, unique moment together, and the baby is coming, and then we're building our life, and suddenly everything was difficult, and doctors involved, and like procedures, appointments, medication, injections, and
it's so invasive. It's
oh
so
my
invasive
gosh,
to your body and to your life, and so
oh my
much of an
gosh,
emotional roller coaster. And what I was gonna say before is just like, you can't have all that light without some darkness.
Hmm.
And nobody experiences life without having the darkness involved. You know, it's just part of life. And it's when we are able to take that darkness and use it to see the light better, that we're able to like keep going and going through. But like going through what you went through with all the fertility treatments, like I do know a lot of people who have struggled, and it's such a mental battle. Like it's a physical battle, because it's very foreign. It's very like, get away from me. This is my body. And now it feels like everyone is sticking their nose into my business, and I don't want that there. But then there's this whole mental battle of like, I'm supposed to be able to do this, and I can't. And what is wrong with me that I can't do this thing that is supposed to be this biological, just women can just do this. And there's this whole just this battle that goes on in my mind.
And don't forget the hope part, because that's been really killing me as well. When I did some IUIs, and then I had to move on to IVF because the IUIs were unsuccessful. And when I started with IVF, I was like, okay, again, decisions, every time making new decisions, like how far do we go in this process? And okay, well, we're going to do IVF. We're just going to do one. It's going to work out. Everything is going to be worth it. Once we have the baby, I'm going to forget about everything that happened. And
it doesn't work like that.
Oh my gosh, if only I knew. But well, I started the process, and they don't tell you all the way to the end. They do it step by step, because it's so overwhelming. All the, like I said, the procedures, the injections, certain timings, doctor appointments every day in the hospital. And it was really like living a double life, because I had this full-time job in the school that I was working. So, and then in the meantime, I was doing all these injections and appointments, but I really didn't want to talk about it at my job first, because I thought, well, it's going to work. And then we push this away. I don't know what I was thinking. I just tried to keep it for myself, and it felt really uncomfortable and vulnerable. So I didn't want to talk about it. It was not a conscious decision. I just didn't do it. And then, of course, appointments were supposed to be at 8 a.m. And then I was helped at 8:30. So I came too late in my job. And then my job started asking questions, and I was making up excuses or calling in sick. And I was just living a double life. And then at one moment, so that was the first IVF. And then we went through the IVF. It was so much more difficult than I could have ever imagined. Like I said, the hope was really killing me, because you start the process, and you go through the stimulation period. They do the egg retrieval, then they do the embryo transfer, and then 2 weeks later you have to wait for 2 weeks. And then at one moment you gotta get a phone call, or in my case, which was horrible actually, I received a code from the hospital, and then I could check in on my lab results on the computer, 24 hours later. And I log in and I just see, well, it's like those TV shows that are a big red cross in your screen. It was not like that, but that's how it felt. And my whole life collapsed at that moment, literally, because I didn't expect that it would not work. I thought I do IVF so I get the baby. That was my naive thoughts. And also not helping that the doctors were like, you're young, everything is good, the sperm is good, the environment, the uterus, everything is good, so it's gonna work. They were even drawing a little heart on the echo that they did before they put the embryo back. And like thinking about all of these things now, I'm like, okay, one side I was naive, the other side I just got talked into the success part of IVF. And
Well, and on
well,
top of on top of everything that you put into it, like you put your whole body and soul into it, like how expensive it is. Like you put literally everything into it. And it's like, wait a minute, no, this was supposed to work by what?
Yeah. Imagine even with the IVF before they did the embryo transfer. So in the lab, they put the sperm and the egg cell together. They fertilize if it works. It doesn't always work, but my egg got fertilized. They put it back, but before they put it back, they asked me like, what kind of glue do you want to use? And I was like, what do you mean glue? Yeah, we have glue, the glue to make sure that the embryo stays stuck in your uterus. And I said, what do you mean? What glue? I said, yeah, we have glue for $200 and we have glue for $400. And I was like, okay, what's the difference? Well, it's the brand, but maybe the $400 is a bit better, but yeah, there's no research behind it. And I was like, so which glue do you want? And I was like, well, if I do the $200 one and it doesn't work, I'm going to blame myself for the rest of my life. So do I have a choice? The $400 then?
Oh,
so
that's
they put
manipulative. That is
I
so
know.
manipulative.
I know. And those are the moments also that you realize what a business this is. It's crazy. And well, after one IVF, we did a second IVF, also unsuccessful. We did a third IVF. Also, again, like I said, you're being talked into the hope because now everything's perfect. And, you know, the first IVF, you have like, I don't know, 30% chance that it's going to work. But after it's getting higher and higher, of course, because you've done it already. And I'm like, now looking back, thinking, actually, it's not true. It's like flipping a coin and you're just lucky, yes or no. That's what I'm feeling right now. But well, after the third IVF, and we wanted to go for a fourth IVF. And oh yeah, also imagine all the treatments, the different IUIs, the different IVFs were in all different countries because we kept moving. Yeah, so what's happening every time you enter in a new country and a new lab, they want all the tests be done again because they don't take anything what happened before, and every time starting all over, all the invasive tests that they do before and explaining everything again. And of course, it was our choice to keep moving, and my job was changing, and then we started a company and we wanted to be in different locations. So
I was going to ask you if you were doing it all in Nepal.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I started in Indonesia, actually. I started in Indonesia and then I continued in Nepal. And because of the COVID, we had to leave. I got a job in Bulgaria and then we continued there. Then we moved to Mexico. In Mexico, I continued, and then we were in Colombia and we wanted to go there for IVF4. And the hospital said, your egg reserve is so low, we cannot accept you for IVF anymore. And I knew it because in the third IVF in Mexico, they did a test that they didn't do in the other countries. And they saw that my egg reserve was really low, which nobody ever told me about, which makes that I was 29 when I started. No reason to say that it's going to work. You're young. And what it means when you have a low egg reserve, when your egg reserve is empty, this is the moment you go into menopause. So with a really low egg reserve, you're in pre-menopause. And so they didn't want to continue. And then we had to, and that was last March. And that was another moment that our whole world collapsed because suddenly it was done. We put all this energy, effort, mental health, all these kind of things. We put this in a process of almost 6 years. And I always thought, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Keep going, keep going. And suddenly, like, I came in dark black hole of nothingness, and like, what now?
And I want to point out like that you experienced like doctor bias, in that they looked at you and they were like, you look young and healthy, so we're not going to bother doing this.
Trust me, in Indonesia,
that could have told you all of this right from the start. And like
in Indonesia, listen, that was even worse. In Indonesia, they asked me with the first test, how long are you married? Sorry, what does that have to do with it? Yeah, but it's a cultural thing. I mean, in Asia and even here in South America, like, do you have children? No. But how long are you married? Oh, only half a year. So they see the moment that you're married, that's the moment you start trying. But that's not working like this in most of the culture, unless you're religious, of course. And I understand that. But for us, that was not our situation. And
that's not right to assume that.
No.
Like that's like, genuinely that's stupid to just assume that. Even.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. So
well, I'm so
there
sorry.
I was. And I was really, really sad. I cried for, I don't even know how long. Time passed by. I was in my own little dark world. Nobody could go in. Watching movies, but then there was a baby or a family passing by, and then I was off, and I just didn't want to be confronted with, and the triggers are everywhere. You just go out of the door to do groceries, you see families and moms and little children and babies and pregnant women everywhere. And it was during my IVF already overwhelming, but there was still this face of hope, and one day it's going to be me, seeing pregnant women. And suddenly it was really like, it's never going to be me. I'm never going to have this experience of being pregnant, of having our own biological child. Like my husband being a dad, I see him being with nephews, cousins, children, all around the world where we've been in. And yeah, and that was really black time in my life. And I remember that after a couple of months in, and I literally cried for help. And I said to my husband, I want to get out of this. I just don't know how. How do I get up? What is my purpose? What is my meaning? My whole life I wanted to be a mom. My whole life I prepared for it. When we were going through the fertility treatments, I did a course to be a postpartum doula. So I had all this knowledge and helping other moms. I became a pediatric sleep consultant, so I would be prepared for that. And I've been a teacher for 15 years, so I had all these parents always dealing with all these questions, and everything has always been surrounded about preparing myself to be a mom and being completely ready for it. And I felt so purposeless, and like I said, I literally cried for help. I don't know how to get out of it. And then he said something, and I'll never forget that. He said, you can do hard. You've done hard before. You've done hard when you left the Netherlands. You've done hard when you thought that I died in a tsunami. My husband in 2018, it's a whole other story. And we had to build up our life after that as well. And he said, you've done hard. Go back to all these moments and write down, what did you do to get out of it? Because you came out of it. You are this happy, positive, vibrant person. You like to be around with people. People like to be around with you. And just because you're now in the down doesn't mean that this is your new identity. So that's what I started doing. I started writing. And I wrote down a lot of things that I did in other situations to get myself out of it. And because this was it had consumed 6 years of my life. And then suddenly it was consuming my whole future. Silly example, if you want to have a car and you don't get that car, your future keeps going. But if you want to become a mom and have a family and that falls away, a lot of facets suddenly fall away. And I needed to find a way in this to find acceptance, because that's what people were telling me. You need to accept your situation. And I was like, how do you accept something that you don't want? I don't want this to be true. How do you accept that? So I started writing all these things. I started implementing a lot of things. And then I climbed out of it, and I climbed pretty good out of it. If I'm looking now how much I've accomplished, and not only by myself, I need to put credit to my husband as well. He's been amazing. He doesn't want me to call his rock, but he's been my rock throughout the whole journey, and especially afterwards. And I decided to write all the steps down in a really simple way for other women who are ending in a transition like this, or in other transitions, to get out of such a thing. And I wrote them down like in a 6-step model, and it's called accept, because that's what people say. And it's really about starting with acknowledge the situation, because that's what I realized at the moment. I can say, okay, objectively, this is the situation. I'm not a mom. I'm not become a biological mom. And this is the situation. I could say that. But then if I had to accept it, all these emotions were overflowing me, of course. But the acknowledgement, that was my first step. If somebody would have told me that in that moment, that would have helped me a lot. And then the second is really focus on what you can control. Control the controllable, the things that you can control. And things like the weather, all these kind of things, they're outside of your control. Or becoming a mom, that was outside of my control for starting from that moment. And how other people think about my situation, or the things they say to me, is out of my control. But what's in my control is how I think, and how I speak, and how I do, and the words I'm using, and starting to get grip on that. Like, okay, my negative self-talk, okay, how can I, and this takes time. This took a lot of time, but this was for me the second step. And then creating a routine, making sure that like there's some things I don't need to think about anymore. In those moments that I was in my rock bottom, I was not taking care of myself. I didn't care about food, or putting makeup on, or even brushing my hair, or taking a shower, or putting clothes on. I didn't care at all. What was the point? That was the whole time my answer to everything. What is the point? Like, and I was not in a phase that I didn't want to live anymore, but I didn't find in anything any purpose. That was all gone. And I started creating like, okay, every morning I just need to put clothes on. That was first my thing. Put clothes on. And I started feeling better slowly by doing this kind of things, and put some makeup on, take a little walk around in the street, like all these little steps to. And then big one, expectations with compassion. That was a big one for me, because I saw more people, of course, around me also going through transitions, or ending up childless after IVF, or after infertility, or ending up childless due to circumstances. I mean, there's so many reasons you can end up childless. And comparing yourself with like, whoa, they've been 6 months out and look what they're doing already, and I'm not there yet. And really being compassionate to myself, to not compare myself to others, to just be kind and loving, and taking care of myself in that moment. What do I need? What do I feel right now? And cry if I need to, and laugh if I need to. Even that was hard for me. If I felt like I wanted to laugh, I didn't want to laugh, because how can I laugh about my situation? So I tried to like hide feelings of happiness in that moment. Whenever I felt happiness, like, no, you cannot. Look at you. This is your situation. This is not how you wanted life to go. And so when I started switching that, like, be happy when you feel happy, and be sad when you feel sad, I opened up, and I gave myself so much permission to just be. And then the P for accept was really positive feelings. A lot of people say, yeah, positive thoughts, positive thinking, and you're going to get out of it. You cannot think positively if you're in such a situation. If you're in a situation that you're in where you don't want to be in, you cannot think yourself positive out of it. But what I realized is creating positive feelings, that really helps. So really being focused on what makes me happy and do little. I created a happy list, for example. I wrote down all the little things like barefoot walking in grass, smelling the pages on a library book. Those things make me happy. So I started doing them like little by little. And then first it was like a couple of seconds of happiness. And then it started expanding and doing more things of happiness. And then automatically doing them without any effort. And so to start creating more positive feelings in your body, because your body is storing all this trauma. I mean, we sometimes forget how when we go through trauma and we think that is a story in our head, but it's an experience in our body, our whole tissue, everything is being affected by it. And so this positive feelings really helped, and walking a lot, of course, helped me a lot. And then the last step, and that has been massive for me, is tribe. Find your people. Kick out the toxic people, first of all. Really important, because sometimes you have people in your life they're really draining. Even though they're the most kind people, they're just not in the phase that you're in. They're holding you back. They're not moving you forward. And you can kick out like in a friendly way. I mean, that doesn't have to be in a dramatic way. It can be with a message and you end it with a conversation, or it's slowly just letting it go. But that really helped me to give space for new people. And there were people coming in my life who were also childless, way much further in the journey. And it really helped me to be surrounded with them, to hear their story, to see what life is going to look like in a couple of months, a couple of years, and how it can be. And because what I realized, finding people who, now, the thing was like for every phase in your life, you have different people that are important for you and that are helping you move forward. So when I left the Netherlands and I started traveling, my tribes existed of other travelers. I mean, we related to each other. We could tell each other cool stories and where the next location would be and things like this. And then when I became a business owner, I surrounded myself with entrepreneurs, because those are the people who get you. And then when I became childless, my tribe existed about nobody, because you cannot find these women easily. You cannot go on Facebook and type in childless. Now, thank God, now those communities start coming, but it was like nobody's going on Facebook or Instagram and showing off their bruised bellies from the IVF, or their empty arms, or a nursery room that they will never use that is there since years. I mean, we don't talk about it. It's like a silent struggle. But I was really looking for my people. I really wanted to surround myself with people who would get me, because my friends, my family, they just didn't get what I've been going through and the situation that I was now in. And then I got all this advice thrown at me, like, hey, you can do an egg donor, you can just adopt, you can do this. But nobody was listening to my story and what I've been going through. And I just wanted to be heard and seen and acknowledged, and not fixed. Because this fixing that had been going on for 6 years, those doctors, the only thing they were doing was fixing my body, fixing everything. And there has not been enough mental health care, except the care that I looked for myself from the clinics. There was no support. And even if you were telling friends and family, I heard one time when I said, yeah, I'm doing IVF. Oh, that's so exciting. I was like, what the fuck? Seriously, are you for real? This is not exciting. There is nothing of all of this is exciting. But there is this idea like, oh, it didn't work, but IVF is the solution. And so it does work. And this is what I've been doing the last couple of years, really talking about and openly speaking about, to raise awareness around infertility. And now I'm really focused about childless, because IVF doesn't always work. And to be honest, most of the times it does not work. And if you consider that there's so many more women like me walking around, struggling, trying to find purpose, trying to find meaning, trying to find people who can just listen to their story and be there for them. And because I needed it so much myself, I thought I need to create something that is so unique that people find me and that we can come together. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of months. I'm organizing walking and hiking retreats all over the world now, and where childless women come together. And this is a moment that we do an adventure, so it's fun, but we also have this connection with each other. And there's always a grief counselor on board because I need to know my limitations. I mean, I'm in the journey still myself, and it's going to cost me a couple of more years to, I have really bad days still, and it's okay. I know now it's okay. But spending time with these women, spending time together and doing really cool, unique things, and having the support to think about, okay, so what now? Because that's the big question. What's next when this big dream of motherhood is collapsing, this thing that we see everywhere around us, and our life is different now. And yeah, so to answer my own question, how can IVF be worth it if you don't have a baby? Because that was always my question when we came at the end of the journey. Like, how can this be worth it? I've wasted freaking 6 years of my life. I wasted my mental health, my emotional health. Our finances are gone. Like, it's crazy how expensive this is. And I didn't even get anything back for it. Like, how can this be worth it? And I'm trying now to make it worth it and not put it away and say, okay, that was a chapter in my life. Now I'm moving on. No, this is part of me. This is like, I had a conversation with one of the participants in the next hike last week. And she said, yeah, I put this label on myself of being childless. Is that healthy? Well, it is part of our story. If we remove it, it doesn't feel that we're true to ourselves. If we're true to our story, this happened to us and it shaped us the way we are, for better and worse. I mean, it made us stronger women having all these stories, but it's always going to stay with us. And that's the funny thing with grief as well. It's like some people say, yeah, time heals all wounds. I don't believe that. We have a wound that's going to be ripped open regularly. And the time is going to give the wound more space to heal, but it's never going to be fully healed. It's like Christmas photos, seeing all these families in the same pajamas. It's something that we're never going to experience. Having Mother's Day coming up. Can you imagine? We are talking about this now already. It's January. What are we going to do for Mother's Day? How can we avoid all this advertising everywhere? How can we make sure that we take care of ourselves? What can we do to not make this day for us even harder? And find ways to deal with this, because that's what it is in the end. And I know I'm talking to women who are way much further in the journey. It's getting better. But even the women who are 10, 20 years in the journey, they still have days that it just doesn't work. It just doesn't go today. And it's okay. And that's been really a big lesson for me, like being okay, that some days it goes well, some days it doesn't. And it's both fine. The days that it's going well, it doesn't mean that I forget everything. And the days that it's going bad, it doesn't mean that my life forever is going to be bad. And having this reflection, yeah, that has been massive. But being together with women who really get you, that's been life-changing. That's been really life-changing.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna try to not cry. And I'm not a crier. Thank you for coming and sharing that. I don't know who else is gonna hear that the way I hear that, but today I really needed your story. I have 3 kids, but they are all on the autism spectrum. They are all disabled. My oldest struggles with just kind of functional type stuff, and she's 12, and she's mostly she can kind of pass as typical often. My second is 11, and he's severely autistic and semi-verbal, and he has type 1 diabetes, and he will live with me for the rest of his life. I will never be an empty nester. He will never have the life that I imagined for him, I will have to take care of him for my whole life. And what it has taken to take care of him for 11 years, I mean, he runs into the road and tries to open people's cars while they're driving, and he's been successful at that at times. He's opened someone's moving car, he runs through parking lots, he has, you know, epic tantrums and hurts himself, and he does all these things, and it's hard. And then my youngest is only 8, and the last few days he's been really, really violent and taking it out on me and trying to injure me and trying to hurt me. And it's this whole thing, and I won't get into it, but listening to your story helps me you know, remember how valuable they are, even though life does not look like I ever thought it would. And the same is true for you and for your tribe. It's how do we come to terms with life when it is entirely not fair? When it is completely, because you know, I can look around at Mother's Day stuff, and I can look around at those happy family Christmas pajama cards, which we have taken those, but the amount of work the amount of like to get a family picture of my kids is like we actually had professional photos done, and my youngest spent the whole time glaring and frowning. He refused to wear what I asked him to wear. He spent the whole time playing in the dirt, so that when it was finally time for pictures, he was covered head to toe in dirt, and then he just folded his arms and glared. So I've got these like beautiful family pictures where all I look at is my son's angry face because he didn't want to be there. And it's
you're pointing out such a good thing right now, because this is what we do often, and this is what we do as childless women, looking at the moms. This is what moms with special needs children do with moms who have healthy children. I don't know if you can say it like this, but
typically developing is
typical children. We compare their outside with our inside feelings. We're looking at their perfect picture, and with our sad feelings of what we don't have, which doesn't work like that. And what I also, when you started sharing, the first thing that came up for me was like, you see, this is so important to find your tribe, no matter what situation you're in. For me, it's my childless tribe. This is really important. For you, it could be moms who are also having autistic children, special needs children. For moms who are having a partner who is always working abroad or whatever, find your people. I mean, it's for everybody. It's not just for me. It's everybody.
Right. Well, and every one of those steps that you were talking about, like, they're incredible. They're incredible. And that's, you know, really the sunshine of this whole thing that you've been through. It's not that it makes IVF worth it. It's that the sunshine is you turning it into something that helps other people. That's where the sunshine is in it. And, you know, that's my goal with mine too, is to take the things I've learned of, you know, here's the best locks for doors so your kid can escape, and here's the best schools in the area and the best therapies or whatnot, and to take that information and help other people who are in your same situation. And like I'm so grateful for your story, because it, you know, I've actually, the last few days have been really, really difficult for me, and I've been feeling really burnt out, and really, you know, it so often feels impossible to do anything besides this role of motherhood, which is such a gift, as you have pointed out so perfectly, and to feel trapped in it. And so that I just desperately needed that reminder of like, oh yeah, I longed for this. I wanted this.
But again, no comparing.
And it doesn't look the way that I wanted it to. Like, that's for sure. But there's still a gift in this. There is still a beauty in it, even though it looks the other way. And I have to tell you that, like, absolutely, what you have been through is entirely devastating, and there is no way around it. But there are certainly people who would look at you and be like, you're free to go travel, you're free to do that. And it really just goes back to like, What's your perspective, and how can you look at it from someone else's point of view?
Yes.
And when you look at your life through someone else's point of view, you'll be able to feel a lot more joy and a
Yeah.
lot less comparing. And there's just a lot of beauty in that.
Yeah, and exactly what you say, like let go of this comparing and live your own life and try to chase feelings instead of goals. That has been for me, like I said, when I was on that bridge in Paris, stop chasing goals, start chasing feelings. And my feeling is happiness and freedom. They're both so important. And it really helps me. And this is why I'm doing this retreat right now, because it gives me happiness and it gives me the freedom that I'm craving for. And doing things that I literally only do things that make me happy and give me the freedom. And then when you are clear about these feelings that you want to chase, certain goals can be coming in a different shape.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, your story's been absolutely, changing for me and incredibly inspiring to me. And I so appreciate it. I really,
Thank you.
really, really do.
Thank you for letting me share.
And I had something I was going to say, I can't remember. I think I was going to say, it's just, we have to, exactly what you were saying, is we have to find ways to find joy in our lives and in our days. We have to look for that. And a lot of people look at that and go, oh no, that's selfish, I can't do that. But if you don't, you can't feed your soul. And when your soul is fed, then it can feed other souls.
Yeah, and you cannot wait for other people to make you happy. It just doesn't work like that. It needs to come from the inside. So you need to go inside and see what light me up. And maybe it doesn't do it in that moment, but go back. That's really what helped me. What did I do when I was 7? What did I do when I was 12? And one of those things was writing. So I started writing again. Another thing is walking, being in nature. So I started doing that again. And it helped me. But for everybody, it's different. And again, find within yourself the answers. I mean, it's what they say about coaching as well. Like it's the questions that people are asking, but the answers are within. There's nobody who has the answer for you. You have it. And knowing that gives so much. How can I describe that? Gives so much
Like peace and freedom.
yeah, trust also.
Yeah, well, and it's allowing yourself to have what you want and stop, because what stops us from doing that is the supposed tos and the shoulds and the comparisons. That's what stops us from finding joy. Even, and that's the thing, is there is always sunshine. I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were saying, and there was all these dark clouds and all I could see was the dark clouds. And I was going, if you could see the dark clouds, then there was light somewhere.
Yeah.
There was light somewhere showing up so that you had the ability to see that. Otherwise you would have seen nothing. And so,
yeah, and somebody else even told me, like, when you were in your dark phase, dark is associated with negative, but that's just a label you put on it yourself. I was like, okay. Yeah.
so if you had any final words of wisdom or sunshine sparkles you could send our way, what would they be?
Oh, yeah, I think what I said at the end as well, find your people, find your tribe, people that you feel connected to. We are here based on relationships, human connection. We've all experienced it during COVID, how hard life suddenly became when the real connections were not there, because it's not the connections, the chit chat here and there. It's not enough. At least I do. And I think most people need those deep connections, one level deeper than or 10 levels deeper than the how's the weather and all those kind of things. And what also helps when you talk to people who are in the same situation or who are a little bit further in the situation, to feel that you're not alone. And you're not. Know that whatever you're going through, you're not alone. There are people who are going through the same, experience the same, and they are there to support you, help you, guide you through it. Just be there, listen, and make you feel not alone, which is really important, I think, because feeling alone is such a horrible feeling.
Oh, it so is. And we put ourselves there. We put
Yeah.
ourselves there because of shame and overwhelm. And it's like, when you step out of that, there's freedom. What I was gonna say before I remembered is like, this is not the end. This is not the end of your story. It's not the end of my story. There is so much beauty in the future. And there are other opportunities. I know you know that there's other opportunities out there for you. And it's a
Yeah.
choice. You know, you have to choose and you have to be ready. And that's its own adventure, right? It's its
Yeah.
own thing that you have to, you know, start getting ready for it, because nothing comes easy in this life, and it's just kind of choose your own adventure, right?
Yeah, and
It's
choosing is so powerful. If you,
mhm.
there's gonna, like I had a one day, you're gonna wake up, no matter what you're going through, one day you're gonna wake up and like say, no longer, I want something else. And this is for everybody different time frame. But the day you have that, I think this is a day you start moving towards your new future, a future that you can create, that you have control about. I'm really all about like create a created life and don't live by default. Really be conscious how you want to create your life, how you want it to look like, and just do that, even though it goes against all the expectations, societal culture or whatever. If this is what makes you happy, go do it. And if you fail, who cares? Stand up, try again, go another way, try. We have only one lifetime, and life is too short to waste it. I've wasted 6 years. I'm not going to do that anymore. This is now my time to start living. And I hope everybody who's listening, going through a dark patch, there's going to come a moment you're going to step up and you're going to say, now it's time to live again. And then, yeah, it's, I said last time, I'm creating an extraordinary life despite not having what I wanted the most. It's both. And it's okay now.
Oh my gosh, you're incredible. I'm I'm blown away by your story, and I'm so thankful that you shared it today. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? Did you write your book? Did you publish it? Do you do coaching? What? Like, tell us all the things.
Yeah, my book is going to be published in spring, but it's written in Dutch. It's about my IVF journey, and I especially write it for parents who how to support their daughter going through IVF. That's something that I've really missed, and I don't blame my parents because I didn't tell them anything, so they had no idea what I was going through. But I know that that could have been really beneficial. And yeah, I can be found on. I have a website, riannahijlkema.com. Really complicated. And on Instagram,
We'll put
Facebook,
a
LinkedIn,
link.
I'm
It's
also
not complicated. If
perfect.
there's a link, we
Awesome.
can like go right to it. And then
Yeah.
on Instagram by the same name.
Yeah, my name, Facebook as well, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere, and I'm always there to have a chat. I love talking, meeting new people, and
this
I
is
just
so needed. This is
yeah.
so needed in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to say thank you so much for giving me the space and the time and the opportunity to share my story. It's both sides. It's for me like to share your story. You need to step into your courage and your
It's
braveness and
therapeutic.
being vulnerable. Yeah, but you
We need
giving
to
me
be
the space.
heard.
Yeah.
Sorry. We need to be
Yeah.
heard in our stories. We need to be heard in our pain. Like
Yeah.
that's how we begin to, you know, kind of dissolve it, is as we are able to express it and be heard.
Yeah, and I think the world sometimes seems to be like this perfect place, and we don't express enough the hardship, because if we do, it doesn't make us less, it doesn't make us weak, it doesn't make us, it just makes us real, and it makes us give the opportunity to other women, men, whoever, to open up about their story because they feel safe. And that's something that I've been really trying to do, share my story with the purpose to give other people also the opportunity to share their story, and that it's okay, everybody has a story. But what I actually wanted to say is thank you for giving the time and the opportunity to have me here this is for me a way to get the story out and to reach other people, to let them know that they're not alone. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. It's truly been an honor.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up and end this. And your energy is just so beautiful, and like being with you in this has been so healing for me. And so I hope that the rest of the audience can feel that too. It's really been beautiful. I hope you have a beautiful day. Like just
Thank you.
and such an amazing life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness. Rianna is incredible and amazing and fabulous, and her story just melts my heart. Like there's no other words to describe it. Like I am utterly speechless after listening to her and her story, and just so in love with the energy she brings to the table. It is so healing and so full of compassion and grace and just so inspirational. So here are my very favorite quotes. I know, and these favorite quotes, they get me. They're so good. They make me tear up. They're so beautiful. And again, I make these into little graphics every week and share them throughout the week to promote this episode. And I hope that you'll follow me on Instagram or Facebook and see these when they get shared and share them with someone else, because I know that there are people who need this message this week. Number 1, he said something that I'll never forget. He said, "You can do hard. You've done hard before." Number 2, accept. Acknowledge the situation. Focus on what you can control. Have expectations with compassion. Create positive feelings. And find your tribe. Number 3, it doesn't look the way I wanted it to, but there is still a gift in this. There is still beauty in it, even though it looks a different way. Number 4, start chasing feelings instead of goals. Number 5, you cannot wait for other people to make you happy. It just doesn't work like that. It needs to come from the inside. So you need to go inside and see what lights you up. Number 6, this is not the end. This is not the end of your story. There is so much beauty in the future. Number 7, choosing is so powerful. Live a created life and don't live by default. Really be conscious how you want to create your life, what you want it to look like, and do that. Number 8, we only have one lifetime, and life is too short to waste it. This is now my time to start living. There's going to come a moment where you're going to step up and say, now it's time to live again. Number 9, I'm creating an extraordinary life despite not having what I wanted the most. It's both, and it's okay now. And number 10, we need to be heard in our stories. We need to be heard in our pain. That's how we begin to dissolve it, as we're able to express it and be heard. Oh, this is one of my very favorite episodes, although I think I have so many, but Rianna, I'm just so grateful for everything she shared with us. And I know that I was uplifted by this conversation so much. I genuinely needed it in my life. So if you felt that too, please share it with someone. Let's lift up everyone around us as much as we can. So I have a great song that is going to be on my album. This is sort of a demo version, and the real fancy schmancy version will come out with the album on May 23rd. But I felt like this song, it's Rollercoaster. It's one of my favorites, although, they might all be my favorite. This song really goes along so well with this episode, so I hope you enjoy it. Have an incredible day, and I'll leave you with a song.
I heard it would be worth it, but still I hesitate. So many just enjoy the ride. But that's not how I feel inside. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. Forcefully it's pulling, constraining violently. So long I felt the pain, wondered if I'm going insane. These bars feel like a cage, but perhaps they keep me safe. For freedom I call and come, but with it I would fall. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help but fight for control on this roller coaster. This roller coaster. There's pain pressing on my chest. I'm trying my best. I know I'm supposed to endure, but how I'm not quite sure. Alone it feels unfair. Is anyone there? Suddenly I see the one who rides with me. Up, down, just wanna touch the ground. Up, down, I don't feel safe or sound. Going against gravity. Is this how life is supposed to be? I've got to learn how to let go, but I cannot help fight for control on this roller coaster. On this roller coaster.